Beast Hunter, A Kelton Moor Adventure by Lindsay Schopfer. Prologue. A Hunter at Work. Kelton Moor deftly stepped over a twig, stirring the smoky mist with the toe of his boot. The full moon filled the night with a pale glow between the black trunks of the trees, bathing the forest in ethereal light. Kelton moved slowly through the gray haze, sometimes taking a minute between footfalls. He needed no speed, only stealth. His quarry would not be moving after it had eaten. He knew it would be sleeping. An hour stretched into 3, and still Kelton crept forward. The bracken thickened, forcing him to circle the denser pockets of brambles. He held his rifle vertically, angling the long steel barrel towards the sheltered sky to avoid tangling his most prized object in the bushes. The oak stock felt solid and reassuring in his grip, the cool of the metal trigger guard seeping through his gloves. A rustle in the bracken froze him in mid-step. A long moment passed, and Kelton let his hovering foot gently lower to the ground. The faint odor of ammonia drifted through the trees to his nostrils. The beast was before him. Shifting his weight gradually, Kelton inched forward until a shaft of moonlight gave soft definition to the monster lying barely a dozen yards from him. Its forearms were overlarge and muscular, wrapped around its massive head and serrated horns. The broad shoulders and thick chest flowed into 2 coiling tails, each tipped with a poisonous barb. The bristles and fur covering its back were blacker than the night around them. Kelton judged the total size of the beast as somewhere between a bull and a gray bear. His quarry found, Kelton now began the studied examination of his prey. The muscular forearms wrapped around its head made his neck shot impossible, and the broad shoulders suggested muscles thick enough to halt his bullets before they could find internal organs. Instead, Kelton decided upon a place on the beast's side under one of the extended forearms, where the skin pulled tight just under the joint. He moved a few yards to the left, allowing the angle of his shot the best chance of piercing deep into the beast's chest. Satisfied with his position, Kelton crouched down to finish his final preparations. The 5 chambers in his rifle were loaded with Reltac spinners, designed for deep penetration. Kelton gauged the short distance between himself and the beast, and decided to replace the final 3 bullets with Alpinion rounds, filled with the metallic acid belferin. At this range, he knew that if the beast did not fall on the first 2 shots, he'd need it distracted by as much pain as possible to allow him a chance to finish it with the Ripper. He placed this final weapon within easy reach before him. The wicked-looking stabbing point and wide-edged axe blades barely reflected the light of the moon on their tempered surfaces. Thus prepared, Kelton lifted his rifle to his shoulder and took aim. With practiced ease and steady hands, he aligned the sights with the shadow just below the beast's forearm. He breathed out, breathed in, held it, and fired. The report of his rifle shattered the still night. The body of the beast shuddered and lurched. The creature rolled and screamed, smashing the brambles around it even as the second shot roared. The beast's howl was like the whine of a tea kettle. Despite the 2 bullets deep in its body, the beast stood and straightened, its vivid orange eyes unerringly turning to Kelton's hiding place. It launched itself forward with a gurgling scream, using its coiling double tails and powerful forearms to gallop directly towards him. Kelton watched the bellowing beast approach and aimed his final shots carefully. 1 shot to the space between the shoulder and neck, 1 in the stomach, and 1 in the elbow. Each shot rocked the massive beast, but still it charged forward. Kelton dropped his rifle and snatched up the Ripper. He stood, taking a defensive stance as the beast continued to bear down on him. For a moment, Kelton's blood chilled in the face of that furious advance. Had all his shots missed their marks? With only a few yards between them, the beast's wounded elbow gave way, damaged beyond use by the spreading belferin acid. The beast collapsed to the ground, and Kelton sprinted forward, swinging the wide blade of the Ripper down onto the beast's uninjured forearm. The blade cut deep, and Kelton leapt back again, barely dodging a flailing swipe from the beast's now useless second limb. Kelton went back into a defensive stance, but the beast did not rise up again. Thrashing and rolling, the creature floundered in the bracken, unable to attack as the internal damage caused by the Reltec spinners quickly bled away its life. Kelton stood at a safe distance, watching for signs of a final charge until he was satisfied the beast was mortally wounded. Minutes passed. The creature lay panting and whining on the forest floor as the belfrin acid seeped throughout its body. Kelton allowed himself the time to reload and fire 2 more spinners into the beast's neck. At last the forest was silent once again. The beast was slain. Kelton sank to the ground. He offered a silent prayer of thanks for protection and success before backtracking to his traveling pack. Returning, he knelt next to the still beast and began cutting off its serrated horns with a small saw. The saw was sharp, and the work went quickly as he whistled tunelessly to himself. A 50 Java bounty for both horns had been the mayor's offer. He calculated. 5 to the church, 15 sent to his mother and sister, another 10 to replace his ammunition and supplies, and 15 more to Mrs. Galloway for another month's room and board. That left him a profit of 5 Java for himself. He tucked the 2 horns under one arm, rested his rifle on his other shoulder, and began the trek back to town. As he walked, he smiled and continued whistling, musing to himself what he might spend his extra bounty money on.